Hi, welcome to the Philly Suburbs with Sharon. I'm Sharon Laudenbach. I'm a mom. I am a wife. I am a resident of White Marsh Township, and I'm a real estate agent with Compass Real Estate in the Philly suburbs. I started this podcast 8 months ago already to because I was realizing how many great people and businesses there are in the Philadelphia suburban region. I have lived here my whole life. I have been working and selling real estate for the last 10 years, specifically in the Philadelphia suburbs. And I've just met such great people, and I decided to bring it to the airways with my podcast. Uh, Really quick, my little realtor wisdom tidbit today is about preparing your house for the photographer to come for professional photos. So you've worked with your real estate agent, you're getting ready. She says that the photographer is coming, and there are just things. I actually have a checklist. I wanted to say if anybody wants to reach out to me, I can send you this checklist, which is done by my photographer. It's just great ideas. And I'm telling you guys, follow it. For instance, just a quick couple things. Make sure all your light bulbs are working. Make sure you move your cars out of the driveway. Make sure you hide your power cords, and let's remove all the magnets off of the refrigerator. Like little things like this. There's even a longer list. So if you want more information, please reach out to me. Today we are talking with Cheldin Rumer. You can actually see one of the most energetic, uh, just lovable women that I've met over the last couple of years of networking. So welcome, Cheldin Rumer.
Hi, how are you? I'm so excited to be here. This is so much fun.
Great. Our lives have revolved and somehow led us to each other kind of in a
Oh,
circle over many years. You and I
sure.
met actually, I think it was PC. So BC before COVID, we met.
Yeah, right.
And right, I watched you speak to a networking group then. And then about 4 months ago, I watched you speak to another group of ladies.
Yeah.
And then we had some coffee and drinks together. And I just love your energy. It is, I mean, really, truly honest and just I don't the right words aren't coming to me. You're just
It's
so
okay.
energetic and you just
Thank
look
you.
at your smile. So
You spoil me. I'm so excited to be here.
I'm
I'm
going to
so
continue to spoil you. So I'm just going to do a quick introduction. Sheldon is the executive producer and host of This Is It Network. She's going to talk a lot about it. Sheldon shares her commitment to communication and marketing education by offering corporate and personal brand consulting with her Scream Your Dream training program, which is
yeah,
another thing she's going to talk about.
so much fun.
So we have so much to cover. Thank you
Yeah,
so much for coming on and talking to our listeners today.
I love it. I love it. I'm excited to be here. I adore you. So this is just fun. It's just fun.
Right back at you, girlfriend. Okay. So you have, I mean, just reading about more about you and listening to you a couple times, you have a really cool, colorful background is what I wanted to
Yeah,
call it. I
fair.
want you to share your story with the listeners. Sort of like I'm interviewing you, like I
Yeah.
used to interview people for work positions. Like take me back to middle school or high school and just give us like paint a picture. How did
Yeah.
you become Sheldon Rumor and This Is It Network?
Oh my gosh. Well, I love, first of all, thank you for that. I think and the interesting thing is that a lot of people come of age a little bit later, right? A lot of people figure
Yeah.
out what they wanted to do a little bit later in their life. Who you see before you is who I was in fourth grade, who I was in eighth grade, who I was in high school, and so on and so forth. I didn't necessarily have a title for it. I didn't necessarily have a profession for it, but being a
Yeah.
storyteller, which often means as a young person, you talk too much, was always who it is that I was, right? I'm an extrovert. I've always been an extrovert. I've loved not only the limelight, but center stage in various ways.
Mhm.
I'm also a team player. I've been an athlete for as long as I can remember. It's loose now, but I was a Division I athlete for LaSalle University in Philadelphia. I was, I always an athlete and most sports and et cetera, et cetera, but always loved to tell a story. I had an opportunity, my high school in Southern New Jersey had a media program that is still prevalent and really great. And so freshmen were allowed to create an elective where they were able to determine whether they wanted to be in media is what they called it. And so majority of high schools have it, the morning announcements, right? The scenario where individuals who select to do so read the morning announcements, lunch, sports, all that kind of really fun stuff. dove into it completely, was always in love with talk shows and television, and always, ran to the set to be able to see what I had missed. My mother, to age myself, my mother would record her shows on VHS tapes, and we'd watch them after practice and in the evening. So I grew up on Donahue and Sally Jesse Raphael and Oprah, of course, and Ricky Lake and all of these talk shows, and I was just obsessed with it. Also loved media and television, and in high school had the opportunity to pitch an idea. And so two of my dearest friends still to this day, to review movies. And so we were high school movie critics loosely.
Oh,
We pitched, right? So we pitched the movies. We were in South Jersey, but we drove to Philadelphia to watch the movies. We got press passes, all these wonderful things. And I was like, I love this. And then went to look to study media and communication at LaSalle University, but quickly found out that it was going to be a difficult journey to be on TV. It was going to be a longer road to find myself center stage in that way. And so I really began leaning into sales and marketing. It was just something that came to me because I love to talk. Sales was the
yep.
natural progression.
And you're honest.
Right. And I'm honest, right? And the way that I could be able to tell a story or frame it in a way that they understood what I had is what they needed. It was very much one of those situations. I had to cut my teeth on cold calling, smiling and dialing, as we like to call it. I was selling help wanted ads. All needless to say, it was really about trying to figure out ways to use communication to my advantage. I started throwing parties, again, to age myself, in the height of the .coms. All of my guy friends started upcomingevents.com, phillytonight.com, all of those kinds of scenarios. And so we were downtown, helping them host those events, and again, cutting our teeth in that kind of realm, only to land at Borgata Hotel, Casino and Spa, where I applied for a job and just got a job within their publicity department, and really understood what online, offline, events, sales, all of it came together so magically. Decided, that kind of outgrew a current position. It was time for me to move on, brought everything back to Philadelphia from Southern New Jersey, Atlantic City, and started my own agency. And at that time, IG Creative was really a place for small business owners to gain graphic design, web design, all of those kinds of scenarios.
What year was this? Just so I have a perspective.
So that was 2004, 2009 started IG Creative. Yeah. So was in the hospitality space from Borgata, and then started opening restaurants all across the country, met a lot of great friends that I still have to this day, relationships. I'm sure we'll talk about that later. And then started IG Creative. And so IG Creative was good. But what I found was that the majority of the people that I was helping not only were women, but were women that had a hard time telling their story, right? And going back to the extrovert in myself, I didn't have that problem. And I found it to be tragic to have somebody who was remortgaging their house for their business, somebody who didn't go to the family birthday parties for their business, somebody who hasn't seen their friends for their business, but then given an opportunity, couldn't articulate their business. And so I got an old camera from my drawer. We had an office in off 3rd Street in Philadelphia. And in that conference room, I began to record my clients. I began to interview them as if I was Oprah or Gail or any of those folks. And I lit up, they lit up, their posture changed, their voice changed. And literally I had said in my mind and out loud, this is it. This is all I'm going to do for the rest of my life. And so that's how it really came to be. It was just, I am going to use my gift to elevate the voices of women. And then
How did I not hear that from you before?
Yeah.
But I have heard your story 3 times, and I never heard you actually say that's where this is it. This is it. Like literally, like this is it.
That's all I'm doing. And I ran to GoDaddy, and I was like, this is at TV.com. And I went, and it was free. Not free, but available. Just gobbled it all up. And until recently, it was simply just a product of IG Creative. And then now it's what it is. And so it just was an extra extension. We would go and interview people when we could. We'd still be doing campaigns, but and my son is now 6. So after I gave birth to him, I was just like, I'm doing this every day of my life. So I've just been telling stories and interviewing people ever since.
So let's get into this. Is just,
yeah.
I want you to take it to the next level, because like your typical, it's like your own network that you
Yeah,
completely designed. So explain
crazy.
it like
Yeah.
in really simple terms.
Sure. So if Netflix
Mhm.
and Masterclass, if you're familiar with that platform, the celebrity platform that teaches you how to do various things,
Yes.
if Netflix and Masterclass had a female daughter, that's what This Is It Network would be, right? An opportunity for educational entertainment. You
Okay.
go, you laugh, you meet friends like us who are real people, right? So not only are the chefs on This Is It Network, you can go into their actual restaurants. You can hire them to cater your event. So it's an accessible version, which I think is what's missing. I think that we are inundated with stories that are happening in a very casual way from what are coined as influencers, let's say, or
Yeah.
content creators, which is a very Wild West kind of scenario. Though I appreciate it, though I live in it, what we do is provide an extended discipline more so than that influencer space. And then we provide an accessibility more so than cable and traditional television. So we live really in the middle where we produce content, very short form content
Yeah.
that you can dive into to make your life as a remarkable woman better.
And
So,
like really simply, how do we as
yeah.
the general public find it?
Oh, so
Where
it's
does
this.
it sit?
So it lives on thisisit.tv. Thisisit.tv, another URL I was able to gobble up. More information on This Is It Network can be found on thisisitTV.com, and you can watch all of the shows at thisisit.tv.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's because I think that some of us are thinking it's much more complicated than that, or
Yeah, for
maybe it's
sure.
YouTube. Is it on YouTube?
It is. So we live on everything else. Good old TikTok we talked about before last time we chatted.
Yes, we did.
Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. We're on all of those things. And we see them as support mechanisms and tools to be able to drive people to our larger format programming. So yeah, but you can find us everywhere at This Is It TV. We're not so much on X/Twitter, but aside or Snapchat. Those are the two we are not really heavily on, but the rest of them we live and thrive. LinkedIn, all of them. Yeah.
How do people get on I mean,
Yeah.
this is starting to sound like an advertisement for This Is It TV,
No,
and
it
it's
is.
really not.
It's
But
okay.
I've known you for long enough that I still
Yeah.
get a little bit confused. So
Yeah, sure.
like let's say somebody's watching that or listening that just has like a really cool business
Yeah.
how do they like present themselves to you? How do you find
Yeah. Yeah, I think that that goes back to kind of that scream your dream education, right? It's the ability to find your voice and ask. The majority of the things that we want, whether it's the Today Show or Fox Good Day or anything that you're kind of looking for, they're ultimately looking for somebody to ask. They're looking for you to bring yourself to attention. So if there's, whether it's This Is It Network or any other media platform, I think that a lot of people are always often surprised when they email an editor or find somebody, a
yeah,
media outlet on LinkedIn or follow them on some social platform and they just ask like, hey, would you mind including me in your it list? Or would you mind including me within a
yeah.
feature? And they're like, sure. And they're like, all of that thought. And now I'm not going to say that that happens all the time, but it's definitely not going to happen if you don't ask. So it's as simple as that, logging on to thisisitTV.com and just reaching out. And I suggest that for all other media or any other relationship too. You oftentimes media outlets are looking for stories. And if you can make our lives easier by providing us the story, we really see that as advantageous. So if there's a media outlet, ours included, that you'd like to be a part of, just reach out.
I
Just
mean,
reach out.
honestly, this situation of you and I marrying together here is a perfect example because
For
I've
sure.
known you and I've seen you, as this owner of this TV
Yep.
network and blah, blah, blah. And then I'm like, can I ask Cheldin to
For
be
sure.
on my podcast?
Yes.
And it was like, okay,
Yes.
just ask, and here we are today. And I
We
think it's
are.
gonna, hopefully some people will take some things out of this. So
I hope.
just to sort of backtrack for a second,
Yeah.
hopefully some lady, I'm gonna go with ladies that are
Sure.
listening, will do a couple things by just sort of watching us
Yeah.
because we came together by being some, in
Yeah.
our heads, powerful women,
Yeah. Out loud.
honest, hardworking, all these things. And we sort of went a little bit outside of the box to find our place in the world.
For sure.
Um,
For sure.
a lot of people and this is a very common thread through
Yeah,
many of the guests on this podcast, is that most women do a major shift change at some point in their career.
sure.
And I did mine about 10 years ago when our business closed, and you did it, you decided to go to this is it type of network when your son was born. And these are very common changes. Do you have anything to share with the listeners of either what gave you the power or just
Yeah.
something to share with us?
No, for sure. I think that, we, as people in general, primarily women, aren't really given permission to see what we enjoy, right? There's always a task or a plan, or, traditionally or non-traditionally, it's go to college, get a job, go to high school, get a job, try to find a mate, have a job, whatever the situation. There's always a trajectory, whether it's a universal trajectory, a stereotypical one, or one that we have for ourselves. We often put more pressure on ourselves than the world could ever provide, right?
Yeah.
And so during all of that graduating, of getting a job, all of the benchmarks that we set for ourselves, we very rarely get to know ourselves, right? We rarely get to know what we like, right? I understand that you had a family business, so that was the trajectory made sense, and that's where I'm going. And so we just
Right.
get on the wheel,
I was on the wheel.
stop the wheel to be like, do I even want to be on this wheel? Do I even like this? Who am I personally? And I think that we're in a beautiful time where we get to ask ourselves that question, and then we get to act upon the answer. And that's what I think I'd love for people to do. Like, are you happy? And do you have a skill that would match your joy? Because it's not just about being happy, right? It's about what skills can I bring
Yeah.
so my gift can match stability, right? Like, how can I use my gift to create a sense of stability in order to be able to match my joy? And when I realized that there's a profession in talking, that there's actually, for that chatty girl in the classroom, right? The girl that can't sit still, the girl that can't, cannot shush,
Yeah.
there's a career for her that is really based on her gift, based on what I do well. Like, that's when my life changed completely.
And that's amazing that we can at least keep like the brain going, that like don't settle,
Yeah.
um don't just think it has to, like the wheel doesn't have to just keep going without thinking every morning.
Yeah.
This came to me,
Yeah.
Obviously I sell houses for a living.
Yeah.
The only
Yeah.
paycheck that I get is when I sell or help a seller or help a buyer, right?
For
But
sure.
this podcast started because in full disclosure, I was really quiet last fall and last winter, and I was like, what am I going to do? And this whole thing came, and I love the interview process. I have been so fortunate that today technology exists. There's a
Yes.
platform, literally YouTube and whatever, for me to post really great conversations that hopefully will help people.
Yeah.
And I'm not getting paid for this, but it makes
Yeah.
me so happy. Like it's a different part of me that gets to do this.
Yeah. Yeah.
And and it's on the other time, like when I'm not in front of the camera, I'm continuing to meet great people, very local people, to talk about Philly and to talk about their businesses. And it just is a really good opportunity, I think. And everybody in their different businesses, if they want to branch out and do something different, there's options. There's other things to do.
Yeah, and like, the more it's actually in in conjunction with who you are, right?
Yeah.
So this podcast, even though it could be about gymnastics, it could be about anything that
Right.
you wanted, but it would still be an extension of yourself,
Yeah.
which can never be wrong, because who you are is why you do real estate in the first place.
Yeah.
And so, like, let's just say fictionally it's about gymnastics. Me, who wanting to purchase a home from you, would know in turn that my daughter is in gymnastics as well. Like, it always goes back to
100%.
your authenticity and the ability to connect with people to be able to get closer to what it is that you want. And so whatever that tool is, whether it's social media, whether
I
it's
agree.
podcasts, whether it's just going to networking events where, this relationship
What we do.
stemmed from, it's just allowing yourself to explore in that way, I think, is so necessary.
Yeah, yeah. I hope other people take a little bit from that, because there's a lot of different options, and I like sharing that. I really do.
Yeah, and it's
Um,
fun.
I want to break into something really fun with you, because you became like a TikTok star You're like I don't know if you're an influencer or blah
I
blah
don't
blah,
know.
but what was your hook? You told me the story and I definitely can't
Yeah.
repeat it. So I'm gonna let you tell the story.
So for me, well, there's a couple things. One, I was very nervous about the TikTok space. I'm always late to these platforms,
Oh,
admittedly. Like, I'm always like,
yeah.
everybody, you should be on this. And maybe like YouTube's out for 10 years. And I'm like, maybe I should go on. Like, I'm always late.
Yeah.
Even though I'm innovative, I was always late. And so for TikTok, I was like, I really want to be in the space, but I don't feel like dancing. I'm not lip syncing. I'm not, you know what I mean? It's not the space for me. It's a younger demo. And again, just to be transparent, it just
Yeah.
I didn't know what it is that I was going to bring to the table. I always do these morning messages and motivation. And you know what? I'm just going to go on there and just be Cheldin. I'm just going to go on there and do what I do on these other platforms. And whoever picks it up, picks it up. And whoever pays attention, pays attention. And what I found was this unique group of individuals who were looking for a sense of motivation, that were looking for a sense of perspective. What I typically do is talk about whatever's trending from my own perspective, right? I think that people are very quick to be able to judge, demand, be angry, all of the things, but I tend to come to the table with a sense of joy and realism that
Yeah.
takes things out of the heat of it and allows for people to look at it from a different perspective. So that's what I just ended up doing, and it has worked. And I think that it's been a really beautiful breath of fresh air for some people that want to learn. I think that also that's another reason why I love talk shows so much, because you could go in the comfort of your own home, not know about human trafficking or foster care or any of those things, and be able to gain the lesson without judgment, right?
Mhm.
Come to the table not knowing anything without somebody being like, how'd you not know that? Like with all of this angst. So you could ask questions. Remember in talk shows, they'd run up
Oh
the
yeah.
stairs and that was our comment section, right? That was the comment section of the 80s and the early 90s. It was Donahue running up the stairs asking people from the audience their questions.
Yeah.
And usually it was the question that you had at home, right? So then you were like, okay, good. Okay, that clarifies that. Okay, I understand that. To the point where you'd go to a dinner or you'd go to the dinner table and people would be like, you're watching too much Oprah, because now you were enlightened. Now you had a better understanding of things. And that all of that got replaced with reality television and
Yeah.
antagonistic content. And believe me, I watch all of it, but there just needs to be a place where people can not know and feel comfortable asking questions and feel comfortable that the person on the other end isn't going to scold them for it, and that we can all be better for it instead. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's obviously there's different places for all different things, but
Yeah,
you
for sure.
found yours and you said that you're on TikTok, but you don't do this on X or on Twitter.
Yeah, I don't. And I think that there's a place to your point, a place for everything. And, my children really live on Facebook. If you want to follow me personally, and if you follow our business, we're talking about remarkable women. I think that also gives us a discipline in how we communicate. You know what I mean? And,
Yeah.
and so we can feel comfortable in that way. I feel like it's dressing for the occasion, right? If I'm going to a Phillies game, I'm wearing something different than if I'm going to a networking event. And it's still me, but I'm just dressing for different occasions. And I think that that's just an interesting way to look at social media.
Well, I just want to also just repeat, everything isn't for everybody. I mean, you hear if you're somebody like me who's grasping for like ways for people to find you and ways for people to get to know you, which is really what I am always doing.
Yeah.
Um, it's not about buying it.
No.
It's not necessarily about, clicks or followers. It's about the true content
Yeah.
where that's going to be received, where that's going to be received best that you're comfortable. Because if you're uncomfortable, it's not going to be received at all.
And we can tell, and we can say, I always say, and you've heard me speak numerous times, it's like the idea of faking it till you make it is
Yeah.
just exhausting. Pretending to be somewhere else. We don't need 1 million followers to make $1 million. You just don't. You need the right people to pay attention to. You need the right
Yeah.
people to be in the room. And so again, social media tried to convince us all that we needed all these things. I think we're all sobering up to realize that it is more about the quality of it. It is more about, we tried the abundance of it, and it just left us still hungry and thirsty. So now having more of a quality meal, to keep the analogy
I
going,
love
like,
that. That's a great one. That's
yeah,
great.
Yeah.
So I chose to have you on because I think you were a great, personality from Philadelphia and the suburbs. So, and I know you were, from South Jersey and blah,
Yeah.
blah, 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 blah. But tell me about your love for Philly and the suburbs, because I know you're out there.
Yo,
That's where I see
I
you in the Philly suburbs. So tell me about your love for it.
I love, love, love. So first of all, I went to LaSalle University. And so you quickly realize, especially at an institution like that the majority, I'm very familiar with every private school. You know what I mean? Going down to it was funny because again, I'm from Southern New Jersey and the summer breaks my freshman year, and all of my roommates and colleagues and friends who were Pennsylvania raised and born, were like, we're going down the shore. And I'm like, oh, this place sounds awesome. This place sounds great. Like, where are we going? They were like, Ocean City. I was like, you mean the beach? We're going to the beach? Like, right. And understanding it culturally. But it was funny because when you now travel, especially when I was younger, it was like, where are you from? I'm from the Philadelphia area. I'm from the Philadelphia area. As much as I love the state of New Jersey, you kind of adopt the Philadelphia area when you are traveling about, depending
Yeah.
on the conversation. Again, I am New Jersey true and true, but ultimately there is a love and obsession, not only for the sports, let's be honest, of Philadelphia as a whole, but of the region. And I'm very familiar, whether it's Doylestown, whether it's Main Line. My husband went to Conestoga High School. So it's like understanding the region in such a way. My husband and I moved and lived in Manayunk for at least 3 years, where, I mean, again, as a young person living in that space is just such a fun
Oh,
time,
yeah.
right? And the accessibility and the social space and what does that look like? And we have colleagues and friends that live in Villanova and live in Bryn Mawr and all of the spaces. And for me, especially as somebody
And
who loves
White Marsh, your
in
friend of
White Marsh
White
and
Marsh.
White Marsh and White Marsh, in Plymouth Meeting and White Marsh and Lafayette Hill and all of these amazing
Conshohocken, all the fun stuff.
all of them. I mean, so good. And the restaurants and the food and all of these things. And there's cities within these towns and boroughs and corridors that are full of amazing small businesses that have longevity and long stories to tell. And so, you can go to, an independent coffee shop, or you can go and see film, all of the things. But again, I've had these amazing friends, even going out to the Northeast and Ben Salem. And I mean, I have this, my tentacles are kind of all over as it relates to the development of not only Philadelphia, but its suburbs. And I consider that home as well.
Oh, well, and we want it to be your home. I mean, I'm a Philly born and bred. I mean, literally, I was raised
Yeah.
in Villanova. I went to Harriton High School. I left for 4 years just for Syracuse, came right back and have lived in White Marsh
Love
for
it.
almost 30 years now. So I'm a true believer. I'm glad that you have added us to your familial extension, because I know you're
Of
down in
course.
South Jersey, but
Of course.
I
I
also
mean,
know you're up here all the time because
all the
we
time.
meet up in the burbs. Yeah.
I'm a lunatic. I just went to King of Prussia for lunch. Like and everybody's
Yeah.
like, you drive like a lunatic. I'm like, I just like to be where everyone is. Like, I don't have a problem. Like, my girlfriends, even all the way from the LaSalle days, will be like, Cheldin will drive. Because I will. And probably that's a little Jersey in me. Like, nothing's close ever.
Yeah.
So, I'll be the first person if somebody's out that way in King of Prussia. I'll be like, come meet you out there. We'll have lunch. No big deal. It
Yeah.
also gives me time in the car to be by myself. So
I
it's
mean,
all
my old business, we were headquartered in Jersey. We were in Cherry Hill
okay.
and Pennsauken in two different
Yeah.
locations. So I'm very familiar. And a lot of our staff was from down in
Yeah.
South Jersey. So I'm like really familiar as well. Even though I only have a license to sell real estate in Pennsylvania, I'm going to remind people that I have people to help you in New Jersey.
Oh, I love it.
But
I love
yeah,
it.
I mean, the whole Philadelphia region is really where I am promoting for sure.
So good. And you thrive. And it's also so much fun. And the food is good. The relationships are good and the businesses are thriving. So I'm a huge fan and you can always catch me.
Yeah,
In
that's true. That's true. So it's time to turn the tables. I know that you've watched some of my past podcasts, so I give the opportunity for my guests to ask me a question. Be kind.
No, I would love to. What's there to be? I love the pivot and I love the change and I love the bravery it takes to do something new.
Mhm,
What types of advice would you give someone that is going through that second season, that
mhm.
new space? I would love to say that we're all starting fresh at 21 years old, in a space. But if you are mature, if you already have lived, but now have to reinvent yourself, what type of advice would you provide?
Thank you. Great question. My pivot came, after a family business closed, and I had been in that business my entire adult life, even my teenage life. I was in the business as soon as I could drive. So when I came out day one, I was like, what am I good at? Um, I was good at a lot, but a master of none because I was an overseer. The last like 10 years in the business, I was really managing from very high up. So I wasn't doing a particular job, which made it really challenging. Um, I remember sitting in my makeshift office in my basement and just looking at Career Builder, like back in the day, and going, what the hell am I going to do? Like, I can't do any of these singular tasks.
Right.
So I mean, the advice I would give somebody is seriously write a list.
Right.
What I want to do, what I do like, what I didn't like from before. What's your motivation? One of my motivations, there were two parts.
Yeah.
I worked far away and I worked a lot of hours. And so I was away from the family. I wanted flexibility in my life that I did not have before. I mean, you think as a business owner, I had flexibility, but my business was an hour away. And I really needed to be there for people to
Yeah.
recognize that they needed to talk to me. So that was one thing. The other thing was for me at the time, I had come off of managing and having responsibility for about 30 or 40 employees and families, and I didn't want to do that again.
Right.
So those were the two things that were in my mind with my sales skills,
Yeah.
number one, and management skills, and not wanting those couple things. I found real estate, which I was something that I really thought I was going to love. I didn't know if I was going to be good at it, and I didn't know if I was going to be able to make any money doing it, but
Right.
I took that leap. But I would say, you really have to evaluate what the things that you liked and really didn't like.
For sure. For sure.
And
Love that.
and trust your gut and honestly take a leap of faith is the other thing. I took a really big leap of faith. I was very fortunate that I have a husband that helped with the finances while I was able to recreate myself. I mean, some people don't have that luxury. I had the luxury.
For sure. For sure.
Um, but
Love that.
do something that you really just think is going to be exciting day to day. And is my job exciting every day? No. Is anybody's job exciting every
Yeah.
day? No. Do I have stresses? Do I have things I wished were different? 100%.
Yeah.
But for this phase of my life, it works really, really nicely. I've been very fortunate.
Oh, I love that. I think I love a good tangible thing and I love the list. I
Yeah.
love the ability to write something down, like write it, take note of yourself. I think that that's a really great piece of advice, as opposed to just the contemplating and the thinking to overthink, like take some
Yeah.
time, sit down with a beverage of your choice and then just jot down what you like and what you don't like. I love that.
Yeah. And take a couple minutes, like you say, take a couple minutes. Like,
Yeah.
don't jump immediately into what you think might be right.
Right.
Take a
Right.
minute.
I love
And by a minute, I mean a couple days, couple
that.
weeks,
Yeah,
whatever you can
exactly.
afford.
Exactly.
Um, take some time. Don't make a quick judgment call is the other
Sure.
thing I would say. Yeah.
Agreed.
So I want to wrap up. I want you to take a second and tell people where they can find you, where they could see you, where they could hear you.
Yay, yay. Please, please, please. Everywhere you find at This Is It TV. We are on every platform. Again, we're not as active on the Snapchats or the X, but ultimately we're on everything else. You can just make sure that check us out. We give you a little bit of inspiration, motivation, and educational entertainment. But if you'd like to learn more about how to work with me or how to be able to be more involved within the network, log on to thisisitTV.com. All the information to the social platforms, to the digital network, all can be found there. It's an easy destination for you to get exactly where you need to be. So yeah,
And Cheldin, it's Cheldin Rumer, Cheldin Rumer, Rumer.
ER.
I spelled that wrong earlier. I know how to find you, obviously, but I
Believe me, as of right now, CHELDIN will at least point you in the right direction. I got my brand out there for sure. You'll be able to catch me for sure.
Well, thank you so much. For people just really quick who are looking to find me or any real estate advice or any direction, it's Sharon Laudenbach on all platforms, SharonLaudenbach.com. I would love to be here to answer any questions for you. And Cheldin, thank you so much. You are a pleasure to be with. I really appreciate your time. And to everybody else, this is Life in the Philly Suburbs with Sharon, available at any place that you can stream. So we're on video at YouTube. Otherwise, you can find us Apple Podcasts, etc. Talk to you all next time. Thank you again, Cheldin.
Take care. Thank you.